Welcome back. It is Friday night again. They just keep coming. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So we are doing book chats with Mostly Books. I'm Jody.
I'm Jen.
And tonight we are talking about Vicious by V.E. Schwab, which we're pretty excited to talk about, I think.
I think so.
We are, as we said last week, big fans of V.E. Schwab.
Yeah.
I am still pretty amazed that we've gone since April and haven't done one of her books yet.
I know, but I feel like I am maybe too biased. I'm like, oh, we should do this one, or we'll do this one. I'm like, oh, no, there's other books. There's other things we can talk about.
Yep.
And then we just end up.
But this is kind of fun.
Here.
It's perfectly timed since her new book comes out on Tuesday, which we're very excited for. Yep. So this is a good, if you haven't started V.E. Schwab, you should. And you should get her new book on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah.
As well as all of her other titles. That's right, all of them.
They're all good.
Okay, synopsis.
Plot summary?
Yeah.
So, Victor and Eli are pre-med students in college, and they meet freshman year, and they kind of have that snobby,
yeah.
I'm better than everyone, but you're on my level, so they kind of bond that way. It comes time for senior year and for their theses, and Eli shocks everyone with his choice. He's like, I'm going to study extraordinaries, so people with superpowers, basically. And it's like, LOL, what?
Right.
They get into their research. Eli finds that people who come back from near-death experiences develop superpowers. So he and Victor test it on themselves.
Because why not?
Yeah, because what else do you do?
Right?
So Victor's first trial fails. Eli kind of can't go through with it and brings him back too soon. And then Eli is next, and Victor drowns him in an ice bath, and Eli develops the ability to heal himself from any wound. Victor is mad because he doesn't want to be a sidekick, and he's like, well, I didn't get my chance at this, really. He's like, I can do it better. So he convinces Eli's girlfriend and his friend, Angie, to electrocute him in her lab. He develops abilities. He can cause pain and kind of dial it up or down in people. But Angie dies. Eventually, I'm going way too in depth about this.
You really
but,
are. And
I really care about
spoilers.
this. This part, it's important. This is the beginning. So then, Victor goes to jail for 10 years, gets out, and he's gonna hunt down Eli.
Then
that's our book. The other stuff is backstory. It's in the book, but it's backstory to the present time of the book.
They switch between chapters, present and future. So we get all that.
Yeah, so we get all of it, but that's not also surprises in the book.
The Angie part might have been, but that's okay. I won't be upset about that.
We're gonna talk about Angie
because we're gonna talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm going to ask this question.
Did I like this book?
Yeah. I know the answer.
Yes, I like this book. It's dark and emotional, and that's apparently the kind of books I like to read.
I've heard that about you.
My story graph results really just called me out on that one. And I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah, it's cool. Mine are similar.
I really liked it. I like the concept. I think it's cool. I'd read her Shades of Magic books first.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, so this was very different in that it's darker in a way and it's more closer to our world and kind of science fiction-y than high fantasy. The writing's fun. Yeah, I really liked it.
I did too.
Yeah, I was like, so now Jody, tell us how much you liked it.
I'm pretty sure this was my first V.E. Schwab book ever. And I think this is her first adult book. She had some YAs before this, but for some reason I hadn't read those. I don't know why, because I really should go back and read some of the library or the archive.
Oh, the archive ones? Yeah. Well, she said this one was one of the first ones she wrote for herself. That
yes.
Earlier than that was work for hire ones or write 2 pitches.
I love that. The ones the authors write for themselves are always my favorite ones as well. Yeah. Melissa Marr does one, and I don't remember the title right now. I'll have to go back and look, but it's something grave, and it was so good. And she's like, oh, I wrote that one for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, you should just write all of them for me, because that one was so amazing. And I'm so sad it's a standalone, because I could have really went into the world. Anyway, back to Schwab. So I read this before it actually came out, so way back when. In the day. I actually met her. I'm going to nerd out a little bit. It was the first time I met her was at the ABA. So it was very cool. So I got to meet her and get her first adult book signed by her. It was very exciting.
Gosh. What does your book say since you got it signed?
It says, to Jody, leave your mark. And you really can't see that very well, but it's very cool. I very much nerded out. So anyway, I liked the book a lot as well. I'm not a huge superhero typical fan, but I do love a good villain origin story, and I thought this was fabulous.
You can tell we read these a while ago because we first read them a while ago because they have the old covers,
but they have the pretty new cover,
and they go together.
And I may have a pretty new cover hardback signed as well of this book. I don't have 2 editions of many, but there are a couple.
I have a couple double editions of Schwab's books, especially the Shades of Magic ones.
Right, because then she gets those special editions that are so pretty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so anyway, needless to say, I liked this. It was a great villain story. You know, with Victor, you love and hate him, and you still root for him, but he can definitely be a bad dude at sometimes.
Like, he's even pretty upfront. He's like, I'm not a great person, but he's doing a good thing.
Yeah, and especially when you put him in comparison to Eli.
Yeah, but also Eli's doing, like, okay, you have, like, good motives, but murder's not the solution.
Eli, are you talking like Eli has good motives?
Well, he thinks that these like EOs are like too dangerous, and it's like, okay, maybe there is some truth in that like you have people with extraordinary power, like some of them are going to misuse it, clearly. So it's like he's kind of right, but also
is he? I didn't realize we were gonna dive right in on that.
I don't know where we're going, but like
I'm totally cool with starting here. He wants to have good intentions, but I think any time that you are killing off a group of people,
murder's not
for
the
being
answer.
Different is a bad thing. And his was so self-righteous. Like it almost felt like he wanted to be the only one special too. So therefore, I will do God's work and clean everyone out, but I will stay alive. So I don't know. Eli was not my favorite.
He makes points. Well, and
that's fair.
Like he and Victor both make points, I think, but then they go about how they go about things, and then how they like further their ideologies. It's like,
as every good villain does.
So they're very gray, and you can root for them, but also be like, dude, why?
Yeah, there's other ways to go about this.
Yeah.
Do we want to do any more character recaps aside from just really diving in on
Sydney?
Your moral
Sydney and
ideas?
Dole. I love Dole.
Well, you want to tell us who Dole is first?
Let's do Sydney first because they kind of tie together.
They do tie together.
So Sydney is 12. It's a little 12-year-old girl.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Victor and Mitch find her on the side of the road with.
Mitch is Victor's friend from jail.
That they broke out together. So they find Sydney walking along the side of the road with a gunshot wound, as one does.
I know, right?
And then they just kind of like take her along with them. That sounds weird, but it's actually very sweet in the book.
It wasn't meant in any creepy way.
No.
It was really meant in an, oh my gosh, you need help.
You need help. And it's kind of, it gets very found family in a bit.
I know, right? They're very big brothery.
It's like, oh, the dads.
Yeah, right. I thought dads too, but I was like, but they're kind of really only brother age, so. Do you want to say more?
Yeah, so Sydney is also an EO. She and her sister drowned, and when they came back up, they both had powers, so Sydney can, like, reanimate dead things that she touches. She actually accidentally finds that out in a hospital, and she reanimates a dead body.
Whoops.
We should do her sister, too.
Yeah. Tell us about Dole, though.
Yeah, and then Dole is this giant dog she finds in an alley, and she reanimates him several times throughout the book, but he's
I like Dole too.
He's their dog.
He's just a great dog.
And he gets his name because the Dole is a unit of pain, and Victor thinks he's being clever.
Oh, Victor. Yeah, I love Sydney as well. I think she's probably one of my favorite characters. She's a lot less gray.
She's also 12.
I said, but that was exactly where I was headed with that. But she's only 12. I also really like Mitch, his friend, who breaks out with him. He's a hacker too, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of his skill set.
Yeah.
I liked him. He was a very
he seems the most stable
ride or
out
die
of all
kind
them.
of person before
Yeah.
him.
He's just kind of like, I don't know, he like grounds them, I think, because Victor gets very...
Victor can get very intense.
And Sydney gets very scared, being 12.
Yeah.
And
being with Victor, who's kind of intense.
And like lured by her sister and her sister's creepy boyfriend into the middle of a field.
So let's go into Serena.
Serena is Sydney's older sister. She's in college. She's college age. She also drowns, and when she comes back up, she's kind of a siren, so she can influence people's moods and actions with her voice. That leads her to... She meets Eli, can kind of control
and she never
Eli.
tells Sydney about her gift.
She kind of ghosts Sydney, and it's pretty cruel to do to your little kid sister who drowned. Anyway, so Serena meets Eli and is like kind of fascinated by him because he like knows he's being manipulated, and she knows he knows that, but so she kind of enjoys the resistance he gives her because no one else does, and he's kind of fascinated by her ability, and then they kind of hook up and become partners.
They are a bad duo.
Yeah, they're like
in like the
it's a thing.
Like not that they're so much bad for each other, as in they're just it's a bad two gifts to have together. Yeah, and too evil-minded. Yeah, I just not a fan of Serena. Like, I think that she had intentions at one point to be like a good big sister, and I think every now and then you see that like kind of creep into her actions.
But it's always like too little, too late when she's done something else worse. So it's like,
yeah, and they didn't have a great home life, and she just kind of abandoned Sydney several times over.
Yeah,
kind of shoots her. It's not really the big sister you want.
No, especially when your big sister lures her to a field. Wait, we've put on spoilers all over the place here.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, got carried away.
We did get a little carried away.
Okay, well, these are like backstory spoilers, I guess.
I don't know if they're major spoilers.
They're not, because like other things happen.
Yeah.
And this was anyway.
I don't feel like it's that major.
So yeah, Sydney like gets a call from Serena, like, hey, let's hang out together, sisters and whatever. So Sydney goes and she meets Serena, but also Eli, and it's like, okay, my sister's boyfriend is weird, but there's worse things your sister can do than date someone strange. Turns out they have her test her ability to prove it. Eli kills the guy she reanimates and then tries to kill Sydney, who runs away to the side of a road and gets shot in the process.
And that's when Victor finds her, right?
That's when Victor finds her, yeah.
And then there's another part that I was talking about later on again.
Oh, yeah.
So
the whole end game.
But we'll come to the end game.
Okay, we'll get there.
Yes. Are we forgetting any characters that we need to talk about?
We need to talk about Angie.
Oh, yeah, Angie, duh.
Yeah.
All right, what do you want to talk about with Angie?
I'm just kind of like upset like how Angie gets treated in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she gets fridged.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'll explain that because like I said that to you and you're just like, what are you talking about? There's no fridges.
Yeah, I really was like, no one's put in a fridge.
So it's like a superhero kind of trope where like the hero's like girlfriend or mother or sister, some like woman in his life is killed, body shoved in a fridge, and then he tragically finds her later, and her death is supposed to motivate him to do his hero thing. And that's like what happens to Angie, but like
yeah, there's so many things actually we could talk about with Angie because, well, okay, so Angie was dating Eli but was really good friends with Victor, and I was really upset with Victor. Well, we can come to all this later too with what he makes her do, and then on top of that being fridged. It was just like, man, she's really not treated very well by either of them.
Yeah, it's like in their college stuff, it kind of has, like, that dark academia feeling of, like, everyone's doing bad things and making bad choices, but you're intrigued and you see why they're doing it. So it kind of has some of that. So I'm like, okay, that's not a good thing to do. Don't do it, but you're going to do it anyway. But then it's just like, oh, Angie, you deserve better.
She deserved so much better. And she was so nice. Like, why was she with them? Yeah, I agree. She could deserve so much better. Okay. Writing.
I liked it. It was interesting, like, reading her more recent books and then going back to this one. And you can see kind of, like, where her styles come from. Or, like, Holland in Darker Shade of Magic kind of reminds me of Victor and Eli. It's that same kind of, like, sad boy with powers. Yep. So it was just really interesting to read and, like, really different. And the chapters are all really short. So, and it jumps between time periods, so there's a lot going on.
I liked the jumping between time periods. I thought it was a really great way to recap their college and early years together, as well as what's really happening right now. Yeah.
And they're, like, the little page breaks in the book. Oh, they're probably in the new one, too. But they're, like, little, like, domino masks.
Yeah,
which was...
That's so awesome.
Which I was like, that's funny. Because Eli wears one.
Because it's Eli.
He's kind of dramatic.
I see, what else did you need to say on that one? He's kind of dramatic.
Eli Ever. And he picks, like, a superhero name because Victor has one.
I know, right?
And Eli's like, well, I want one, too. Or I need one.
So he had to copy the alliteration.
It's assonance if it's vowels.
Interesting, thank you.
Fun fact.
I enjoyed that. Thank you. Yeah, I liked the writing, too. I will say I've noticed... when you get to the Darker Shades of Magic, her writing has gotten so much more... Maybe it's the way she plots the story. It got way more intricate, it felt like, in that one.
That one's, like, very plot-heavy.
Yes.
It's very plot-heavy and very tight, so a lot of plot happens quickly.
Yes.
This one, it felt more like what Eli and Ever are going to do. So not that...
Eli and Ever?
Eli, yeah. I made up a new character. Eli and Ever. Eli and Victor.
Okay, I was like, wait, what?
It feels like more like the story of the two of them.
Yeah.
And then Darker Shades, like, we have much, like, more characters, like, doing more things. But
and a
also,
whole,
like,
fantastical world as well.
Yeah, we have a secondary world. Even in kind of in this one, too.
We do in this one, too, because it's like kind of a future... It, to me, felt futuristic. Or futuristic. Like, oh, my gosh.
A little bit, yeah.
I don't know why it felt that way, aside from maybe we don't have EOs. But I don't know. It just felt like a little bit...
Felt like not quite our world, but like a secondary world that's very similar to ours.
That's fair. Yep, I'll go with that. Yeah, no, I liked her writing, and it moves really quickly, like you said. Like, you get sucked into this pretty quick. I mean, you're digging up a dead body in the first page.
I did love that.
So it was easy to pick up and just get really immersed into it. Okay. I feel like we should just go with spoilers from
Even
here.
More spoilers? I got carried away.
We're having a hard time containing ourselves. So spoilers. So
more spoilers.
Go read this and then come back and watch this later.
Yes. And especially since we're doing the sequel next week, you should read this one so we don't spoil things when we talk about this one.
Again.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. First off, I kind of wanted to start with... How did you feel about these guys doing this to begin with? I mean, yes, they're college. Yes.
Have you met pre-med students?
I was going to, and yes, I get that. But at the same time, a part of me was like, you think this is a good idea to go, like, kill yourself and hope you come back with powers? And then, like, how disappointed would you be if you went through all that? And, well, like Victor, but he didn't die. But actually to have died and come back and not have power.
He was pretty disappointed the first time, even though he didn't technically die.
I know. And then he got all, like, mopey and jealous. And a part of me was, like, really, really, like, do you really need to go through this again? Are you this upset? Evidently he was. I don't know. It was just, initially, I was like, come on. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a bit extreme. It makes for a good book, though.
I say, obviously, it had to happen.
Makes for
yeah.
a good book. I thought his thesis was interesting. I was like, oh, that would be interesting because, like, there's all sorts of crazy things reported from, like, adrenaline and whatever. So, like, it's a cool kind of, like, speculative in a way. to like explore that. And like her other books, like the middle grade ones, like City of Ghosts, kind of take the same premise of like what happens, like getting abilities when you die, and take it in a completely different direction.
Right.
So yeah, they pre-med students.
Yeah. And you know, I get it.
Some of them are a whole thing.
You're at that age too where you're invincible, so what's dying and coming back?
Yeah,
no big deal.
You know.
I was upset with how Victor made Angie help him do it. Like, that was putting her in such a hard position when he decides, okay, I'm really mad at Eli. That didn't work. He saved me, which was also interesting of Eli, that he couldn't let Victor die initially. I don't know what that says about him, because then later, yeah, he's totally different.
Victor's on thin ice, but then he just breaks through it later.
Yeah. So anyway, I was really upset that he put Angie in that position. You know, like taking your good friend and being like, hey, by the way, I really want you to kill me.
And watch me suffer, even if I beg you to stop.
Painfully suffer. The electrocution was such a hard way to go. Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't even know. Like, I can't imagine being like, hey, Jen, so what are you doing Friday?
or like, just like misusing campus resources like that. Like, people are gonna know.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, too.
Like, oh my goodness.
So, anyway, right off the bat, I was just like, oh my gosh, dudes. You're special. Already.
There's some baggage to unpack there. Eli has some baggage.
Yeah, I think they both had some baggage, and they were working through that in unusual ways.
Good ways. Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to talk briefly about that part, and then we can move on now. Any major plot points you want to hit before the end?
Not really. Like, there's the big battle at the end.
Do you want to talk about like the fake bake scene, or the robbing the bank, or any of like that stuff?
How
Eli's trying to like create his hero motif,
and he's like saving.
Yeah, exactly.
But then there's like people are dead. You can't like really confirm all the details.
Yeah, I mean, he really went about things in an interesting way. I think Serena really was a blessing in many ways for him once he got the cops on his side. He was pretty unstoppable for a while. Like, yeah. To take and like to be able to like track the EOs through the cop system.
Talk about like what happens to Serena. Like, I kind of want to talk about that. Or that's kind of like at the end too. Okay.
Yep. There's a lot that happens in the end. So, I guess, what did you think about Victor, like, really feeling this revenge motive? Like, I kind of get it. Like, you were sent to jail wrong. I kind of get it, too. Well, kind of wrongfully. I mean, he did kill Angie.
Yeah. Like, I get it. I also didn't see this book going any other way.
Yeah, I don't know how else it would have gone.
And I was into it. I'm like, I'm down to read this revenge quest. None of this, we'll just forgive and move on. Like, no, what is that?
Well, and then, you know, how could you anyway? Because Eli was out hunting his kind now. Mm-hmm. And that's not cool.
So then like, Victor's like, I'm going to stop him. Murder is also my solution, but I'm going to kill less people.
We'll do less damage.
So, I liked it. Like, I see why Victor thinks he had to do it, and like kind of agree with it, because like Victor's the one we're supposed to like. Root for. Maybe a little and root for a little more than Eli.
I think so too.
Even though,
well, Eli was on his high horse, and I have a hard time with that. Where the whole cleansing idea. It's not my thing.
I've heard in this one we get more Eli. And like maybe even feel sorry for him.
Oh, I don't know. It's going to take a lot to
it
feel
takes
sorry
a lot,
for Eli. Like, he does bad things.
Yeah, like definitely after like finishing this one the first time, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to have any kind of sympathy for Eli ever. Yes. And then like in this one, like hearing things about it from people who've read it, or while she was writing it, I'm just like, oh no, are you gonna make me care about him? Like, you could.
No, you could. He has a terrible past. Yeah. And if we went more into that, it might make more sense as to his motives now. So I kind of could see that, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I thought it was interesting that he was trying to make everyone, I think he was the hero, and this whole, like, all other EOs are bad and villains, and I'm going to prove it to you by setting up a fake bank robbery.
Yeah. And
then, yeah, like you said, dead people, unexplainable. It didn't really go well.
It didn't really go well. He's like, I'm going to make all this, like, I'm trying to make myself look so good, and, like, we know he's not. But, yeah, it's a whole thing.
And at this point, they're in their late 20s. Feels like he's just not really thinking things through. Okay, let's dive to the very end. How's that?
Yes, okay. Let's go to the end.
Let's go to the end. Okay, go.
So, Victor, it's the showdown between Victor and Eli that we have been waiting however many pages for. And I'm going to skip some of the other details and get to where they're fighting.
Perfect.
So, Victor can cause pain. Like, if he injures... Like, at one point he stabs Eli, doesn't take the knife out so Eli can't heal, and just, like, turns up the pain to torture him. Basically, Victor does a lot with torture.
But he can also take it away, because
Which
he
is
does
true.
do that with his other friends.
With Dominic, yeah.
Yeah.
So he does do that. But he also tortures a lot of people.
He does torture a lot of people. You're right.
So that happens, and they're, like, fighting. Eli can heal himself. So Victor's trying to, like, kill Eli before Eli can really kill him, because Victor can't heal himself.
Details.
I really liked how this one wrapped up. So it wraps up that, like, Eli gets arrested and, like, exposed as this villain that he really is. Victor is dead.
Well, I thought this was such a good like plan that Victor had created. Like, when you finally find it out, you're like, oh my gosh, you're so smart.
Like, dude, that was, like, super messed up, but you get props for it. So Victor's dead, but his death is enough to, like, frame Eli and, like, kind of also uncover things he's been doing. So Eli goes to jail, like, gets the comeuppance that we wanted him to get. Yeah,
because the cops walk in, no longer being brainwashed by Serena, because we have to keep in mind that at this point Serena is dead as well. So the hold over the cops is gone. They walk in and see Victor just viciously stabbed everywhere, and Eli, perfect, because he heals.
Because he's healed, he's, like, perfectly fine, and it looks really bad.
And he's like, I'm the hero, and the cops are like, no. Okay, now keep going.
Okay, so then some time passes. We are in another graveyard. We have more shovels, and we're digging up another body.
Whose could it be?
Whose is it?
Victor.
It's Victor, and the last thing we see, I think, is, like, Sydney reanimating him.
Yep.
There's a darker shade of magic in this one. I was like, Kel, you're not in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it was a brilliant plan to, like, again, knowing he has Sydney in his back corner.
Yeah, so it's like Victor Vale opened his eyes and smiled, because he knows it worked.
It worked.
It's so satisfying.
Okay. It was interesting about Sydney reanimates Dole twice, reanimates Victor twice. Okay, now, I'm curious how many times she can do it for one person, because already the second time bringing him, at least when we heard about Dole, was harder.
Yeah.
And now he's, like, more tied to her even, and I'm curious how that's going to play out for Victor in Vengeful, if we'll even see it. I don't know if we will or not.
I've just heard he's, like, more of a dad in this one.
I'm sorry, that's exciting.
That's
He was
kind
adorable.
of adorable. It's adorable. It's like supervillain is now your adopted dad.
So it'll be, I'm curious how that's going to go for Sydney, because we don't know probably her limits. I mean, how many times do you think she's really reanimated the same person or thing?
Yeah, and there's people before her who have found that limit.
Right. And I also really loved at the end when she and Serena have their big showdown, and Serena's going to shoot her but can't, and instead says, go run away to someplace safe, that she runs to Victor.
It's very sweet.
I know, that was her safe place. Like, aww.
It's kind of funny because your safe place is, like, this knife sharp dude who, like, can torture people and does torture people.
Yeah, and he has a lot of rough edges. Like, he's pretty, like, when you talk to him, he's not always polite.
No, but isn't there a scene where, like, Sydney comes back from somewhere? She's out, and, like, Victor's, like, waiting up for her in the hotel room.
Yeah,
they're, like,
he's a big old teddy bear still. He just has a lot of rough edges.
It's very soft found family in amongst all the killing. Because there's a lot of it.
Yeah, the end was super intense with the whole Eli and Victor thing, and we didn't know how that was going to go, and I didn't even think about Sydney reanimating Victor at the end.
I didn't either.
I was
don't think I did.
so happy when that, even though I should have. She did it with Dole.
Yeah.
It made perfect. We saw that right beforehand.
We've seen it happen. She can do it to humans. Like, we've seen that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it just...
And the group really needed Victor back. He's definitely their leader. He helps them in, he takes a lot of their pain away, including Sydney's arm with her shot arm, or her bullet in her arm.
Yep.
She took all that away. And Dominic, all of his pain and baggage. So, I mean, they need him for that, as well as, like, leading them forward into this new life. Yeah.
He's part of their crew now.
He's, like, the head crew. What's that? The mastermind.
Yeah, there we go. I was like, the...
Head crew, what? No.
I was going to go with matchmaker, and I'm like, that's not the right word either. It starts with an M, though.
He's the matchmaker.
I was like, that's not it.
Nope. Mastermind.
There we go.
Yep. So I am really hoping we get all those guys back in Vengeful, because I loved this found family. I'm so glad no offense, Serena, but I'm so glad we're done with you. You were not nice to your sister, and you, again, were going to shoot her. Like, that's twice. You have your boyfriend shoot her once, and then you're going to do it? Like...
Well, at least she was going to pull the trigger on her own this time.
I guess that's something.
I have a thing for, like, characters who are, like, who want the dirty work done, but, like, won't do it themselves. And it's just like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Yeah, yeah. So, really great ending.
Mm-hmm. Really good ending.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts where it ends where it begins. Sort of.
I do love that. We're digging up bodies in the beginning and the end.
I do love that too.
A perfect way to start off our spooky reads for October.
Yeah.
Digging up bodies.
In a graveyard. It's good.
Anyway, do you have last thoughts on this one?
Just, I think it's like the characters are really interesting. Like, how often do we get, like, our villain is our main character? Or, like, we see a villain origin story. Like, I can think of a couple others.
I felt like this was a very trend-setting book in that sense. I didn't really see a lot of villain origin stories outside of, like a comic origin kind of stories. In, like, actual novel format, I didn't really see a lot of that. And now you do see it more.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being like, oh my gosh, this is such a fun idea. So I was totally in right from the beginning.
Yep.
And she did a really great job. So, do you want to tell us what's for next week, even though we've kind of already
We've
said?
been talking about it.
And maybe what we're reading after. Do we remember what we're reading after? Okay.
So next week we're reading Vengeful, which is the sequel, but also companion to Vicious. So Vicious, like, stood alone. It's on its own for a while, and you can read it as a standalone. Like, it's perfectly satisfying, even if you want more of the characters and the world, which we kind of always do.
I always wanted more and was never satisfied when I got to the end.
But even, like, seeing how Victoria Schwab, like, has talked about him, that Vengeful didn't come around for a while. She doesn't know if Villains 3 will, like, be a thing, or, like, if it will be a thing, it won't be for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like they work in conversation with each other, but that you don't necessarily need to be like, I need to read this one.
To read this one.
Yeah, or if I don't read the second one, I'm not going to know how the story ends.
Right.
So it's like, I really kind of like that. But yeah, so Vengeful, we meet some new characters, and we meet some old characters. And yeah, I actually don't really know what happens.
That's okay.
Past that.
That's okay. I think that's a good enough. We're going to do a synopsis next week.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what happened.
And what are we reading the week after next week?
We are reading The Damned, so we're continuing with another series. So The Damned is the sequel to The Beautiful, which was our first one.
Oh my gosh, it was our first one.
Yeah.
Aww.
So we're gonna pick up with Celine and Bastien. Celine at the end of The Beautiful. This is not spoilers. Did we? We didn't do spoilers for that one.
We were really good about that. It's okay. It's gonna have to come out anyway.
Yeah, it is gonna have to come out anyway. So we're gonna do it now. So at the end of The Beautiful, Celine has had her memory wiped in exchange for Bastien's uncle giving him eternal life and turning him into a vampire. That's a whole big spoiler.
Yep. Book spoiled.
So we're picking up with that one. I'm very excited to do this. This is the vampire book. Well, one of the two vampire books I was excited for.
How funny. We're doing a lot of, I hadn't really thought about that. Sequels. because we did Kingdom of Copper.
We did Kingdom of Copper.
Now we're doing Vengeful, and then we're going to do The Damned. Huh?
Yeah.
We're just on a roll right now
Yeah.
with sequels.
Should we talk about the rest of the month since we did pick?
Sure. Yeah. What else are we reading the rest of the month?
After The Beautiful, The Damned, we are reading Ninth House by Lee Bardugo.
Which I've already talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
In our one chat. Mm-hmm.
You did. I'm excited to read this one.
Yes.
So this one's like Yale, secret societies, dark academia, people making bad decisions.
That's all you need to know.
And then after that, we are reading a compilation of short stories. So we're reading His Hideous Heart. So they're retellings of Edgar Allan Poe's short stories. And yeah.
Yeah, that one will be a fun wrap up for our spooky month. I'm excited to do that because it has a bunch of great authors on it.
Mm-hmm.
And short stories are always fun.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting.
I am excited.
We have a fun month of October reads to look forward to.
And Rin Chupeco is in
I
this.
just saw that.
In this anthology, and we read their Bone Witch.
My goodness, we're just pulling out all sorts of books tonight.
Yeah, I guess we are.
All right.
So,
Yep.
Spooky month is planned.
Tune in.
We read spooky anyway year round, so yeah.
Yep. And of course, if you want to read in advance, so we don't spoil things, like we tend to do.
We didn't do very well tonight.
We
I
did
got
not.
carried away.
You can call us at Mostly Books, or you can also get them on our website, mostlybooksaz.com. And of course, you can listen to them through audio versions through Libro FM.
I think I'm doing a Libro for His Hideous Heart, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
It will be
I'll be curious if it's one. I'll probably be one narrator, but I'm still going to be curious, and I'll still ask you. So be prepared for that.
I will have an answer.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll see you all next week. All right, bye.